Good morning and welcome to the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means and Senate Committee on Finance, Subcommittee on General Government. Will you please call the roll?
Senators Buck, Taylor, Neal, Assembly Members Backus, Koenig, O'Neill, Torres Fawcett, Watts, Chair Anderson.
And I am present. If you would please mark Assembly Member Torres Fawcett present when she arrives. Thank you so much. So we're going to have 13, it looks like, budget closings, maybe a few more with the staff closing recommendations. So I'm just going to hand it on over to Ms. Ryan to get started. But before doing so, just a reminder, we're not ignoring you if you're looking at if we're looking at our computers. You guys all know what the usual things are, so just be kind to each other. Thanks. So, Ms. Ryan, you're on.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, members of the committee. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. There are 13 budget accounts for the Department of Business and Industry for the subcommittee's consideration for closing recommendations this morning, 8 of which were previously heard by the subcommittee on March 12th, and 5 of which are staff closed budgets. Starting on page 3 of the packet, the first budget account for the subcommittee's consideration is the Division of Industrial Relations budget account, which was heard on March 12th. The Division of Industrial Relations regulates workers' compensation insurance, enforces federal and state health and safety standards, assists employers with workplace safety programs, and provides safety training and inspections for all active mines in the state. There are 2 major closing issues in this budget account. The first major closing issue consists of 8 new positions, which consists of 3 different decision units, which will be presented separately for the subcommittee's consideration, for which the governor recommends allocations from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund of $490,000 in fiscal year 2026 and $798,445 in fiscal year 2027 for 8 new positions and associated operating, travel, and equipment costs, to reorganize the division's workers' compensation section to streamline the workers' compensation assessment process, enhance customer service for users of the claims and regulatory data system, and increase compliance site visits. There is a table at the top of page 4 of the closing packet that outlines the 8 new recommended positions and the fiscal year they are recommended to begin. The first decision in this major closing issue is for 1 new administrative assistant position and 2 new management analyst positions. The governor recommends allocations from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund of $236,678 in fiscal year 2026 and $291,305 in fiscal year 2027 for 1 new administrative assistant position and 2 new management analyst positions to reorganize the division's workers' compensation section, moving the responsibilities for the workers' compensation assessment functions from the Department of Business and Industry's Fiscal Services Unit to the Division of Industrial Relations. The agency indicates the department's Fiscal Services Unit has faced challenges in handling the workers' compensation assessment process in addition to its other responsibilities, and moving this process to the Division of Industrial Relations would leverage the division's knowledge, improve customer service for insurers, and reduce errors. The agency testified that with approximately 600 insurers and the interaction that would occur between the division and these insurers, it determined 3 positions would be required to best meet these needs. There are minor technical adjustments related to this decision unit as outlined on page 5 of the closing packet, and the decision for the subcommittee is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of allocations from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund of $232,622 in fiscal year 2026 and $289,673 in fiscal year 2027 for 1 new administrative assistant position and 2 new management analyst positions and associated operating, travel, and equipment costs as recommended by the governor, inclusive of the noted technical adjustments.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion as stated by staff.
Second.
Thank you so much. Motion made by Chair Neal, seconded by Vice Chair Backus. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted. Next portion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The second decision for the subcommittee's consideration in this major closing issue is for 1 new business process analyst position. The governor recommends allocations from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund of $80,138 in fiscal year 2026 and $99,020 in fiscal year 2027 for 1 new business process analyst position to assist with the division's claims and regulatory data system. The division received approval for an allocation to modernize the system during the 82nd legislative session, and this position is recommended to assist with training and set up for this system. During the budget hearing, the agency testified that there is one existing business process analyst position that is primarily responsible for providing training to internal and external users of the system, and that the current business process analyst position is at its workload capacity. And now that the division has a better understanding of the additional functionality the new system would provide, there is an ongoing need for continued training. There are minor technical adjustments related to this decision unit as outlined on page 6 of the packet. And the decision for the subcommittee is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of allocations from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund of $78,768 in fiscal year 2026 and $98,475 in fiscal year 2027 for one new business process analyst position and associated operating travel and equipment costs as recommended by the governor, inclusive of the noted technical adjustments.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion as stated by staff.
Second.
Great. Motion made by Chair Neal, seconded by Vice Chair Bacchus. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nay, opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion's been adopted unanimously. Move of those members present. Next question. Oops.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The third decision in this major closing issue is for 4 new compliance audit investigator positions. The governor recommends allocations from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund of $173,184 in fiscal year 2026 and $408,120 in fiscal year 2027 for 4 new compliance audit investigator positions for the division's employer compliance unit to address an increase in the number of employers in the state, instances of noncompliance, policy cancellations, and uninsured employer claims. There are 2 tables, one on page 6 that outlines the number of workers' compensation policy cancellations and site visits, and a second table at the top of page 7 that outlines the fines and penalties that have been issued for fiscal year 2022 through fiscal year 2024. The agency indicates 3 new compliance audit investigator positions would investigate and verify employers' workers' compensation coverage, conduct random employer compliance site visits, assess fines, and conduct uninsured employer claim investigations. The division's goal is to bring as many employers into compliance with mandatory workers' compensation insurance coverage as possible, and with each investigator able to complete 2,400 investigations annually, the agency indicates 4 new positions would assist the agency in reaching that goal. There are minor technical adjustments for this decision unit as outlined on page 7 of the packet. And the decision for the subcommittee is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of allocations from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund of $166,199 in fiscal year 2026 and $404,382 in fiscal year 2027 for 4 new compliance audit investigator positions and associated operating travel and equipment costs as recommended by the governor, inclusive of the noted technical adjustments.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I make the motion as stated by staff.
Second.
Motion made by Chair Neal, seconded by Vice Chair Bacchus. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted unanimously. I think we're on to number 2.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The second major closing issue is for a medical fee reimbursement rate study, for which the governor recommends an allocation from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund of $349,785 in fiscal year 2026 to fund contract costs to conduct a study to compare reimbursement rates for medical services provided to injured workers. The last study was conducted in fiscal year 2015, and providers and organizations have requested that the division complete a study to validate or update the medical rates. The administrator of the Division of Industrial Relations is required to designate a vendor based on reasonable competitive bidding procedures to compile data on a national basis concerning fees and charges that are billed and paid for treatment or services. According to the agency, ideally, the study should be completed every 5 years, and the agency testified that while it anticipates the procurement process and the study to be completed by June 30th, 2026, if any changes were developed as a result of the study, these would not occur until after June 2026. And the decision for the subcommittee is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of an allocation from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund of $349,785 in fiscal year 2026 to fund contract costs to conduct a study to compare reimbursement rates for medical services provided to injured workers as recommended by the governor?
Thank you so much. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion at this time.
I make a motion as approved by staff.
Thank you. A motion's been made as read by staff, made by Chair Neal, seconded by Vice Chair Bacchus. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. There are 11 other closing items in this budget account, 4 of which are outlined in the table on the top of page 9 of the closing packet. Other closing items 5 through 7 include technical adjustments related to grant revenue. Other closing item number 8 includes a technical adjustment related to software expenses. Other closing item 9 includes a technical adjustment related to continued funding for 3 existing positions. And other closing item number 10 includes a technical adjustment related to security services. And other closing item 11 includes a technical adjustment related to a position transfer. The decision for the subcommittee on page 11 of the closing packet includes fiscal staff recommends other closing items 1 through 4 be closed as recommended by the governor. Other closing items 5 through 9 be closed with the noted technical adjustments. Other closing item 10 be closed consistent with decision units E225 and E226 in this budget account, and with the subcommittee's action on decision unit E232 in the Business and Industry Administration budget account, with the noted technical adjustments. Other closing item 11 be closed consistent with the subcommittee's action on decision unit E909 in the Business and Industry Administration budget account, with the noted technical adjustment, and request authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Any questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion as approved by staff.
Motion's been made by Chair Neal, seconded by Vice Chair Bacchus. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted. Next budget.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The next budget account for the subcommittee's consideration is the Occupational Safety and Health Enforcement budget account, which was previously heard by the subcommittee on March 12th. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration enforces occupational safety and health standards and ensures safe and healthful working environments for Nevada employees. This budget account includes the OSHA-specific responsibilities as well as the mechanical compliance section. There are 2 major closing issues in this budget account. The first major closing issue includes a recommendation for 23 new positions, which consists of 4 different decision units, which will be presented separately for the subcommittee's consideration, for which the governor recommends allocations from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund of $1.3 million in fiscal year 2026 and $2.8 million in fiscal year 2027 for 23 new positions in associated operating, travel, and equipment costs to address increases in the inspections required to be completed by the OSHA and mechanical compliance sections. The 23 new positions in the fiscal year they are recommended to begin is outlined in a table at the top of page 8 of the closing packet. The first decision in this major closing issue is for 4 new administrative assistant positions and 14 new industrial hygienist positions, which the governor recommends allocations from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund of $910,347 in fiscal year 2026 and $2.2 million in fiscal year 2027 for 1 new administrative assistant position and 8 new industrial hygienist positions beginning in fiscal year 2026, and 3 new administrative assistant positions and 6 new industrial hygienist positions beginning in fiscal year 2027 to increase the number of inspections to be completed each year and to address the increase in the number of employees and establishments in the state necessitating inspections. Based on current staffing levels, the division can complete 1,680 inspections each year, and if the additional positions are approved, an additional 504 inspections would be able to be completed on a yearly basis. These inspections are generally related to health hazards, and the addition of these positions would allow the agency to create 2 new enforcement teams. This recommendation, if approved, would add 1 new industrial hygiene team in Las Vegas in fiscal year 2026 and 1 industrial hygiene team in Reno in fiscal year 2027. And the agency testified that from calendar year 2019 to calendar year 2023, there has been an 11% increase in the injury rate. And in fiscal year 2024, the agency removed 24,000 hazards from the workplace. There are minor technical adjustments related to this decision unit as outlined on page 15. And the decision for the subcommittee is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of allocations from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund of $901,497 in fiscal year 2026 and $2.2 million in fiscal year 2027 for 4 new administrative assistant positions and 14 new industrial hygienist positions and associated operating travel and equipment costs as recommended by the governor, inclusive of the noted technical adjustments.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion as stated by staff.
Motion made by Chair Neal, seconded by Vice Chair Bacchus. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The second decision in this major closing issue is for 2 new safety specialist boiler positions, which the governor recommends allocations from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund of $191,630 in fiscal year 2026 and $244,257 in fiscal year 2027 for 2 new safety specialist boiler positions to address an increase in boilers and pressure vessels that require inspection. There is a table on page 16 that outlines the increase in boilers and pressure vessels over the past few years, as well as the percentage of these that have been operating without a permit, which the agency indicates the current level of staffing has prevented the mechanical compliance section from adequately enforcing compliance with state law. The agency testified that while safety specialists are responsible for performing all initial boiler and pressure vessel inspections and issuing the initial operating permit, ongoing inspections are completed by third-party inspectors, and the 2 additional safety specialist boiler positions are needed to boost enforcement to follow up and ensure that owners are ensuring ongoing inspections are completed. There are minor technical adjustments related to this decision unit as outlined at the bottom of page 16. And the decision for the subcommittee is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of allocations from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund of $189,672 in fiscal year 2026 and $243,462 in fiscal year 2027 for 2 new safety specialist boiler positions and associated operating travel and equipment costs as recommended by the governor, inclusive of the noted technical adjustments.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion as stated by staff.
Motion made by Chair Neal, seconded by Vice Chair Bacchus. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted. Let's go on to the next one.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The third decision in this major closing issue is for 1 new administrative assistant position. The governor recommends allocations from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund of $69,083 in fiscal year 2026 and $83,998 in fiscal year 2027 for 1 new administrative assistant position to supervise the existing administrative assistant positions in the mechanical compliance section. The section currently has 8 administrative assistant positions reporting to various supervisors within the section, and this recommendation would allow all administrative staff to report to 1 supervisor, which would streamline operations. There are minor technical adjustments related to this decision unit as outlined on page 17 of the closing packet. And the decision for the subcommittee is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of allocations from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund of $68,038 in fiscal year 2026 and $83,356 in fiscal year 2027 for 1 new administrative assistant position and associated operating and equipment costs as recommended by the governor, inclusive of the noted technical adjustments.
Thank you, and I think this is one of those times when we have to be very aware of our budget, and I think there's just some tough times that we're looking at. We've got to be very aware of how we are both doing the inspections, but also how we are using our money at this time. So I think it's going to be one of those tough times when sometimes we cannot agree with 100% of the items as a budget. So just wanted to put that out there, that I would recommend not agreeing with this at this time. For just, our budgets are going to be tough and tight, and this is the way that we're still able to do the inspections, but then sometime we've got to make some other changes. So, any other comments? Hearing none, I would at this time entertain a motion.
I make a motion as stated by chair.
So motion was made to not agree with the decision, made by Chair Neal, seconded by Vice Chair Bacchus. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Thank you. Let's move on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The fourth decision in this major closing issue is for 2 new safety specialist elevator positions. The governor recommends allocations from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund of $107,171 in fiscal year 2026 and $266,761 in fiscal year 2027 for 2 new safety specialist elevator positions to address an increase in the number of elevators requiring inspection. There is a table on page 18 of the closing packet that outlines the increase in elevators over the past few years, as well as the percentage of these that have been operating without a permit. The safety specialist elevator positions inspect and investigate all accidents and complaints concerning elevators and related equipment. And the agency testified that while safety specialists are responsible for performing all initial elevator inspections, ongoing inspections are completed by third-party inspectors. And with the additional 2 safety specialist elevator positions, the agency indicated it would assist with enforcement and ensuring that the third-party inspections are actually occurring through enforcement. There are minor technical adjustments for this decision unit as outlined on page 18 of the closing packet. And the decision for the subcommittee is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of allocations from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund of $98,848 in fiscal year 2026 and $249,854 in fiscal year 2027 for 2 new safety specialist elevator positions and associated operating travel and equipment costs as recommended by the governor, inclusive of the noted technical adjustments.
Any questions? Seeing none, would entertain a motion.
I make a motion as stated by staff.
Thank you. Motion's made by Chair Neal, seconded by Vice Chair Bacchus. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The second major closing issue is for a new database system, for which the governor recommends an allocation from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund of $1.7 million in fiscal year 2026 to design and implement a new database system to include licensing, permitting, inspections, notifications, compliance, and payment processing. According to the agency, its current systems and processes offer limited flexibility and customization. And the current system for the mechanical compliance section uses the compliance engine and includes manual processes for various purposes. Current challenges with the existing system include delays in processing requests and the inability to obtain permits and licensing online, which creates barriers for businesses and licensees. The OSHA section utilizes similar systems and manual processes, but uses jurisdiction online, and the OSHA section encounters similar challenges as the mechanical compliance section. The recommendation for a new database system would eliminate the use of jurisdiction online, integrate with the compliance engine, and automate manual processes. The ongoing costs for the new database are projected to be approximately $264,600 per year. And in response to questions regarding the anticipated benefits of the implementation of a new database, the agency indicated it would reduce the manual processes currently utilized by the agency and would save staff time with the automation of current processes and redirect its efforts towards assisting in improving compliance efforts and enforcement. As previously noted, the governor recommends an allocation from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund of $1.7 million in fiscal year 2026 only for the design and implementation of a new database system. However, supporting documentation indicates projected costs are $1.4 million in fiscal year 2026 and ongoing annual costs of $264,600 beginning in fiscal year 2027. So there is a technical adjustment as outlined on page 20 related to that. And the decision for the subcommittee is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of allocations from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund of $1.4 million in fiscal year 2026 and $264,600 in fiscal year 2027 to design, implement, and maintain a new database system as recommended by the governor, inclusive of the noted technical adjustments.
Thank you. Are there any questions? So I know that with some of our background, it looks like the system is projected to be operational. And so we might be asking for like updates during the IFC timeframe. I don't think we need to do a letter because it's just one more thing. But maybe getting those updates just whenever we have IFC would be really helpful. But again, there's no need for a letter. It just might be questions and stuff that we might be asking about. So at that time, I would be, no further discussion, if I would entertain a motion at this time.
I make a motion as stated by staff.
Great. So the motion's been made by Chair Neal, seconded by Vice Chair Bacchus. to approve as stated by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted. Ms. Ryan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. There are 12 other closing items in this budget account, 7 of which are outlined in the table on page 20 of the closing packet. Other closing items 8 and 9 include technical adjustments related to grant revenue. Other closing item 10 includes a technical adjustment related to software license expenses. Other closing item 11 includes a technical adjustment related to agency-owned vehicle expenses. And other closing item number 12 includes technical adjustments related to security services. The decision for the subcommittees on page 22 of the closing packet and includes fiscal staff recommends other closing items 1 through 7 be closed as recommended by the governor, other closing items 8 through 11 be closed with the noted technical adjustments, and other closing item 12 be closed consistent with decision units E225, E226, E227, and E228 in this budget account, and with the subcommittee's action on decision unit E232 in the Business and Industry Administration budget account, with the noted technical adjustments, and request authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, would entertain a motion.
I make a motion as stated by staff.
Motion's been made by Chair Neal, second by Vice Chair Bacchus. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted. Let's move on to another budget, Ms. Ryan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The next budget account is the Safety Consultation and Training budget account, which was previously heard by the subcommittee on March 12th. The Safety Consultation and Training section assists employers in developing and implementing effective safety and health programs to reduce and prevent workplace hazards. There is one major closing issue in this budget account, which includes one new safety supervisor consultation position, for which the governor recommends allocations from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund of $110,227 in fiscal year 2026 and $136,940 in fiscal year 2027 for one new safety supervisor consultation position and associated operating travel and equipment costs, which would allow for the creation of industrial hygiene unit within the section. There are currently 2 safety supervisor positions that provide oversight of 2 consultation teams, including 5 existing industrial hygienist positions. And this new position would be responsible for providing the 5 existing industrial hygienist positions with direct support. As the industrial hygienist positions focus on workplace health hazards such as chemical exposure, noise levels, and heat stress, the agency further indicates the current safety supervisor consultation positions oversee general workplace safety, and the new position would have specialized industrial hygiene expertise. If the recommendation is approved, it would allow the section to operate 3 specialized teams, which includes 2 safety consultation teams and an industrial hygiene unit. The agency testified that the section does an excellent job with the level of current staffing, but that the additional safety supervisor consultation position, if approved, would enhance the division's ability to provide more effective services in the area of industrial hygiene. There is a minor technical adjustment related to this decision unit as outlined on page 24 of the closing packet. And the decision for the subcommittee is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of allocations from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund of $106,819 in fiscal year 2026 and $135,574 in fiscal year 2027 for one new safety supervisor consultation position, inclusive of associated operating travel and equipment costs, as recommended by the governor with the noted technical adjustments.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, hearing none, I would entertain a motion at this time.
I make a motion to not approve this decision unit.
All right, motion's been made to not approve the decision. Any further discussion? Oh, sorry, made by Chair Neal, second by Vice Chair Bacchus. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. There are 11 other closing items in this budget account, 6 of which are outlined in the table on page 25 of the closing packet. Other closing items 7 and 8 include technical adjustments to projected grant revenues. Other closing item 9 includes a technical adjustment related to software license expenses. Other closing item number 10 includes a technical adjustment related to agency-owned vehicle expenses. And other closing item number 11 is related to security services expenses. The decision for the subcommittee includes fiscal staff recommends other closing items 1 through 6 be closed as recommended by the governor. Other closing items 7 through 10 be closed with the noted technical adjustments. And other closing item 11 be closed consistent with Decision Unit E225 in this budget account and with the subcommittee action on Decision Unit E232 in the Business and Industry Administration budget account with the noted technical adjustments and request authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you. Are there any discussions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion as stated by staff.
Motion made by Chair Neal, seconded by Vice Chair Bacchus. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The next budget account is the Housing Division budget account, which was previously heard by the subcommittee on March 12th. The Housing Division promotes the creation and maintenance of affordable housing in the state, and there's one major closing issue in this budget account for 3 new positions, for which the governor recommends reserve reductions of $168,593 in fiscal year 2026 and $331,656 in fiscal year 2027, and cost of issuance revenue of $7,060 in fiscal year 2026 and $9,601 in fiscal year 2027, to fund 1 new auditor position, 1 new accountant position, and 1 new management analyst position, inclusive of associated operating travel and equipment costs. The 3 new positions would address an increase in workload related to federal funding and housing initiatives the agency is responsible for. The 3 new positions would increase the division's capacity to process reimbursements, monitor, internally audit, comply with external auditing requirements, and meet the requirements of federal and state agencies that provide funding. The auditor position is recommended to help the division to address audit findings from the fiscal year 2021 and fiscal year 2022 state single audits, which the division worked to address by creating an internal audit and compliance committee, but the new auditor position would further assist the division in addressing those findings. Due to the addition of 2 new budget accounts within the housing division and a current and projected increase in workload, 1 new accountant position is recommended and was determined to be needed to provide oversight related to bond accounting, as the division's existing accountant positions that are responsible for this work are already at their workload capacity. Related to the management analyst position, this position would be dedicated to the Windsor Park program and would assist on other special projects such as the identification, collection, and disposition of public lands for affordable housing. And the division testified that it is important for the housing division to have its own fiscal team to manage the administration of state and federal funds. The division also testified that with the addition of the auditor position, it would be able to adequately address and correct all audit findings. And the governor recommends related to the accountant position, an accountant 3 position. However, the Department of Administration's Division of Human Resource Management has preliminarily recommended this position be an accountant 2 position. And the division testified that should this position be determined to be an accountant 2 position by the Division of Human Resource Management, it would work to address the bond accounting related workload within the capacity of that position's classification. Related to the new management analyst position, the division testified that this position would serve as a subject matter expert on land special projects and would serve as a land liaison for residential development to coordinate opportunities. There's a minor technical adjustment related to this decision unit on page 31. And the decision for the subcommittee is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of reserve reductions of $175,653 in fiscal year 2026 and $341,257 in fiscal year 2027 to fund 1 new auditor position, 1 new accountant position, and 1 new management analyst position, as recommended by the governor, and the other noted technical adjustments associated with operating travel and equipment costs.
Thank you. Are there any discussions?
Yes, Madam.
Neal.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, Madam Chair. I do have a question. I have some questions to the Housing Division, if they could come up.
Here they come. Always good seeing you both. Thank you.
Thank you. So my question is, so for the management analyst position, it's my understanding it was actually requested for October of 2025, like that was your original request. And then the governor recommended the July 1st, 2026. So why did you request October 2025? Because that seemed to be more in line with probably the timeline of work that will probably occur on the project. So can you delve into that first part?
Steve Acroft for the record. To your point, Senator Neal, Administrator of the Nevada Housing Division, we would absolutely want to have somebody starting as soon as possible.
So to the second part of the question, so why did the governor recommend July 1st of 2026 when by that time period, houses will be up? What will a management analyst be managing related to Windsor Park in July of 2026?
It's a very valid point, and we would believe that, to your point, that starting them a little earlier in 2025 would work better than 2026, because by 2026, we won't have quite the need for that.
So I do have a request. Is there anybody from the governor's accounting office or governor's financial office that would like to come up and answer that question as well? Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, Nimar Zai from Governor's Finance Office. I'm here to answer any question as my knowledge, if I can.
I mean, it's a redundant question at this point. I mean, I can direct the question to you specifically. July 1st of 2026, what was the reasoning behind rejecting the October 1, 2025?
Unfortunately, I will not be able to answer that question as we had some account change in our office. So by that time that decision was made, I personally was not aware of it, but I can get back to you if you need that.
Okay. So, Madam Chair, I want to make a motion to make the technical adjustment for a start date of July 1st, 2025, because that would actually serve the actual project versus a July 1st of 2026.
Motion's been made. So, did you want to restate your motion, and then we will have discussion?
So I'm adjusting the subcommittee recommendation to approve reserve reductions of, it's actually 100 and, well, actually it would be a little bit more. I would approve the auditor position, the new accountant position, and then I would make a technical adjustment to the management analyst position, let me say that again. So I'm going to approve the new auditor position, the new accountant position as recommended by the governor. I'm going to make a technical adjustment to the management analyst position, not recommended by the governor, for a different start date of July 1st, 2025, and have staff make other technical adjustments associated with operating, travel, and equipment costs. That motion? Yeah.
So second, I believe still was from. Second. Thank you. All right, thank you. Wanted to double check. Motion's been made by Chair Neal, seconded by Assemblymember Watts. Discussion, Senator Taylor.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for all of you that come forward. I would just ask if July 1 being the date, I absolutely agree with my colleague that the sooner the better on this project. Can you get someone in place by July 1?
Christine Hess for the record, and thank you so much, Subcommittee. And yes, Senator, we can. Yesterday would even be better. So yes, we are ready. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. I don't know if we can make it retroactive, but we can certainly go forward. Thank you, Chair.
Any further questions? Vice Chair Bacchus.
Thank you so much. And just need to state, because this budget account 5033841, along with budget account 1013837, involve a discussion of the Windsor Park Environmental Justice Act, I'd like to advise the committee that as an attorney, one of my clients is Community Development Program Center of Nevada, which is the developer who was awarded the project under this act. Since the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my position with respect to this item could be materially affected by legal employment, I am making this disclosure pursuant to Assembly Standing Rule 23 and will abstain from voting on the recommendation to the full joint committee. And I would be making that same abstention for budget account 1013837.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Second, or all those opposed, say nay. Great. A motion has been adopted with one abstention. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming up. Ready for the next budget? Or next part of this. That's right.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. There are 9 other closing items in this budget account, 6 of which are outlined in the table at the top of page 32 of the closing packet. Other closing item 7 includes a technical adjustment related to a position transfer. Other closing item number 8 relates to Budget Amendment A254663841, which was submitted by the Governor's Office of Finance on March 28, 2025, and recommends reserve reductions of $13,001 in each year of the 2025-27 biennium to increase in-state travel expenses. And other closing item number 9 also relates to Budget Amendment A254663841 and recommends reserve reductions of $41,670 in each year of the 2025-27 biennium to establish Training Expenditure Authority. And the decision for the subcommittee includes fiscal staff recommends other closing items 1 through 5 be closed as recommended by the governor, other closing items 6 and 7 be closed consistent with the subcommittee's action on decision unit E232 and E908 in the Business and Industry Administration budget account, with the noted technical adjustments. Other closing items 8 and 9 be closed as reflected in Budget Amendment A254663841, and request authority to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, would entertain a motion.
I make a motion as stated by staff.
Motion's made by Chair Neal, seconded by Assemblymember Watts. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted with one abstention. Next up, let's go to Home Means Nevada Initiative.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The next budget account is the Home Means Nevada Initiative budget account, which was previously heard by the subcommittee on March 12th. The Home Means Nevada Initiative was provided with a total of $500 million in federal funds with the goal to lower the cost of housing and boost housing availability. There's one major closing issue in this budget account, which is the continuation of the Home Means Nevada Initiative. The governor recommends federal ARPA coronavirus state fiscal recovery funds of $155.7 million in fiscal year 2026 and $71.1 million in fiscal year 2027 to continue funding for the Home Means Nevada Initiative budget account to fund affordable housing projects throughout the state. The recommendation would continue funding the Home Means Nevada Initiative through December 31st, 2026, and the Housing Division provides an update on the Home Means Nevada Initiative at every interim finance committee meeting. There's a table at the bottom of page 36 outlining the projected expenses for each year of the 2025-27 biennium. And as of April 15th, 2025, and according to information in the state's accounting system, $210.3 million has been expended on various projects within the initiative. And there's a table on page 37 that outlines the awards and allocations for each of the 4 program areas and administrative costs, as well as the amount expended thus far for each area and the remaining funding. The decision for the subcommittee is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of federal ARPA coronavirus state fiscal recovery funds of $155.7 million in fiscal year 2026 and $71.1 million in fiscal year 2027 to continue funding for the Home Means Nevada Initiative as recommended by the governor?
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion at this time.
I make a motion as stated by staff.
Thank you. Motion's made by Chair Bacchus, or Chair Neal, seconded by Vice Chair Bacchus. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The next budget account is the Windsor Park budget account, which was previously heard by the subcommittee on March 12th. The Windsor Park budget account was established as a non-executive budget account during the 2023-24 interim and was established in alignment with Senate Bill 450 of the 82nd legislative session to enact the Windsor Park Environmental Justice Act and was initially funded with a $12 million general fund appropriation and $25 million in ARPA funds. There's one major closing issue in this budget account, which is related to that there's no recommended funding for the Windsor Park Relocation and Rehabilitation Program for the 2025-27 biennium. And the Windsor Park Environmental Justice Act establishes a program for the relocation of persons residing in the Windsor Park neighborhood. And the Housing Division is required to create the relocation, restitution, rehabilitation, and other financial support programs for the residents. To implement the program, the division created the Uplift Windsor Park Advisory Committee and outlined the duties expected to be completed by the committee, selected Community Development Program Center of Nevada as the developer for the project, and distributed home exchange questionnaires to residents to determine who desired to participate in the program. The division testified the anticipated timeline the Windsor Park residents could begin relocating is uncertain, but if residents are not moving into their new homes by the end of calendar year 2026, it would be shortly thereafter. The division testified that it currently has a contract in place with Community Development Program Center of Nevada for the construction of up to 93 homes for $37 million, and without the $12 million general fund appropriation, it would be a breach of contract. Senate Bill 393 of the 83rd legislative session includes a provision to extend the reversion date of the $12 million general fund appropriation until the end of fiscal year 2027. The division provided updated projections for the ARPA funds and now projects to expend ARPA funding of $13.6 million in fiscal year 2026 and $435,000 in fiscal year 2027. And Senate Bill 450 did require the Housing Division to submit a quarterly report to the IFC concerning the progress of the project, which the subcommittee may wish to continue for the 2025-27 biennium. The decisions for the subcommittee are: does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of ARPA Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds of $13.6 million in fiscal year 2026 and $435,000 in fiscal year 2027, based on the division's expenditure projections to continue funding the Windsor Park Relocation and Rehabilitation Project in the 2025-27 biennium? And does the subcommittee wish to recommend the issuance of a letter of intent requiring the Housing Division to provide quarterly reports to the IFC concerning the progress of the Windsor Park Relocation and Rehabilitation Project for the 2025-27 biennium, and fiscal staff requests authority to make technical adjustments as necessary?
Thank you, and I have a feeling there's going to be some questions, so why don't we have the Housing Authority come on back up to the table if possible. Thank you so much. All right. Chair Neal, I believe you might have had some questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I have a series of questions, but I'll start off with the first one. Can you update the committee on the progress with the land?
Good morning, Subcommittee. Christine Hess for the record, CFO of the Housing Division. On Friday, we completed a wire of the funds to escrow, and the disbursements were made. It's been recorded, and the purchase of the land is complete in the city of North Las Vegas.
Thank you for that. So my follow-up question is, where did the funds come from? What source did the funds come from?
Again, Christine Hess for the record, CFO of the Housing Division. So the Housing Division had an appraisal done on the prospective property as well. In order to meet federal requirements, we wanted to be sure that we would only pay on the appraised amount with ARPA funds. The appraisal came in and it matched the selling price of the land. And so we are able to use ARPA funds for the purchase of the land. So at this point, we are still not anticipating expending any state funds in that per the direction of the Interim Finance Committee and the Governor's Office. We are spending the federal funds first on eligible expenses.
Thank you for that comment. So last night, I found out that it was actually the transfer came from the general fund account, which was the 12 million that was allocated. And so what was this wasn't I didn't have a plan, gotcha. But what was concerning to me was that the belief that somehow, the governor was benevolent and like moved money around when really it was the 12 million general fund that was legislatively approved. Because staff showed me the wire last night in our briefing, and I was like, okay, but this is being paid back over 4 years, right? These are payments that we're collecting to get this 12 million back. So how are we replacing the 9.9 that actually came from general fund and it was not ARPA, which I understand that the ARPA was held up because of Core MV.
Christine Hess for the record. I think I'd actually like to really thank the governor's office. It was their involvement that allowed this transaction to happen on Friday and for us to close this sensitive deal so quickly because Core NV was having problems. Respectfully, Senator, if I may, I think the transfer of funds, it was a scramble, right? We were making sure that we could get this deal closed as soon as possible. As soon as we heard from the governor and the treasurer's office and the controller's office all working together to make sure that we could distribute these funds to title, on Friday, our office worked diligently in partnership with those 3 offices to be sure to have those funds distributed. It's possible it was an error on my part, and I'll just say perhaps it didn't pull from the ARPA funds. Now I'll look to my counterparts. Typically, we're able to utilize processes to put it to the appropriate funding source because that would be the intent of the housing division. So it's possible that I made the mistake working to get the budget or working to get this land deal closed as soon as possible.
Thank you for that response. I want to be super clear. I'm not asking this question to disparage, but what I'm saying is that it came from general fund, which is accurate. So that wasn't to me, that was not an act of, let me move the universe. That money was sitting there. So I want to know, how will it be repaid? Because technically that 12 million was supposed to be used last, not first, because it had a spread over 4 years. And so, and I'm just going to put this out there, which has nothing to do with you or Acroft. I wasn't here when we had the first hearing, but I think in my position, right, when I'm thinking about all of the barriers and all of the things that folks throw up and say, this can't happen, this won't happen, how are we going to deal with the 12 million that has to be paid, is being paid back every month? So when you take the 9.9, and although I'm super grateful the land closed, super grateful that the 18.44 acres closed, I'm grateful for that. I will never say that is not, because that is moving us forward. But what I'm trying to understand is if we needed that in, let's say it is January 1st of 2026, and the money has not been fully repaid from the C-tax, and we're short on the 2 or 3 million that we may need, which then where does that come from? Because technically it happened in the reverse.
Emily Survey, Business and Industry for the record. I'm not sure what you're seeing, but our records indicate that the money was paid from the ARPA funds.
Staff, can you, I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to just say something on the record that I didn't see with my own eyes last night. I was here until 8 o'clock at night.
Christine Hess for the record, if I may. I'm wondering, because of the challenges of Core NV and the sensitivity of this project, we jumped the typical process in order to make this payment, meaning typically we go through Core NV. And so I'm wondering if on your side, Senator, and I don't know, but the system is wonky and has its own personalities, if you saw the wire potentially come from the state, but indeed on the side that we're seeing, it shows it coming from the ARPA funds.
So this is what I'm listening to both this and then also seeing some of the same stuff. It feels like possibly, and this is me, who's not very knowledgeable about everything else going on around this topic, but it feels like there was this account over here, savings account, that was paying for this bill, when in actuality it should have been coming from a general account. Is that accurate? I mean, and I think that's where the problems are coming from is, was it actually paid out of the account that it was supposed to be paid out of?
Christine Hess, for the record, I can't explain, and I definitely appreciate, Senator, that you saw what you saw, but I can tell you that we had to subvert the normal process in order to make this transaction happen in a timely manner. So I'm feeling that the discrepancies you're seeing are related to the fact that we had to subvert the normal process, but thankfully we put it in a way that made it bring in the ARPA funds.
Is there a paper
technically.
trail around that different
Absolutely.
process?
Yes, yes.
Has that been provided to anybody outside of your department? In the governor's
Christine Hess,
office?
for the record. So the paper trail was provided to the treasurer and the controller with all the sign-offs in order to make this happen. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you for the answer. Madison, do you actually have the document that you, or what you showed us? Can you, I don't even know what that, but somebody else needs to see that. And they happen to be sitting right there. So I don't know how that works, but I need them to see that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal, for the record. In the state's accounting system currently in the Windsor Park budget account, the general fund appropriation is the actual funding is sitting in the account, whereas for the ARPA funding, it's the authority to bring the ARPA funding in. So currently, in the budget account, when that transfer was made, the only funding actually sitting in the budget account was the general fund appropriation. So that would be used in terms of making the payment, but the housing division will receive that reimbursement for the amount of the land from the ARPA funds, which will offset, the funding that was initially used to make that purchase.
Thank you for that. So now that it's clear that it came from the general fund because that's what was sitting there, now we can go to the part 2 of the question, which is because the general fund was used for the transaction on the land, how will we deal with that and the payment structure from the C-Tax, which comes in every month as we go forward?
Emily Survey, for the record. So we turn in a request to refund those ARPA dollars through an RFR to the federal government as soon as we expend them. So this request is being processed, and we will recoup those monies. It goes through the GFO. So we will recoup those fairly quickly,
Okay.
and it would reimburse that general fund that was actually sitting in the account.
Okay. 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 So, all right. So now that we've cleared up the source and we've cleared up, we have 2 different perspectives on benevolence. Because I don't see it that way if it came from general fund that was sitting there. That was like probably the thought, that was the afterthought, was what money is exactly sitting there. But I'm going to leave that alone. I have a different question, which is getting into when we talk about in the subcommittee minutes from the last meeting, that you were talking about that 13.6 million, you wanted the authority for 13.6 million to be forwarded so you wouldn't have to come back to IFC, and it was 13.6 million in FY 2026. But what I wasn't clear about was, what was the 13.6 million expected to be expended upon? That's the question. That's ARPA. That was ARPA, the 13.6 million that you requested authority for over FY 2026.
Christine Hess for the record. So that estimation is based on the project budget and the ability of the project to move forward, which, of course, now we're hoping for many expenses to be incurred relative to the construction of the homes.
Thank you for that. And then my second question, in the notes from the previous meeting, that there was approximately anticipated 2.2 million of the 12 million that would be spent in FY 2025 to fund expenses that were not deemed eligible to be ARPA. And then there was an adjustment, but what I wasn't clear was what were the expected expenses of the 2 million that were not ARPA, that were not eligible for ARPA, but then you found out it was going to be eligible for ARPA. What was that category that fell under that 2 million?
Christine Hess for the record. At the time of the original hearing, it was unknown. We had not yet received results back from the appraisal, so that was just an estimate. With the results of the appraisal, we are very comfortable that the full price of the land is an eligible expense, so thus we still are not anticipating any spending of the general funds.
Thank you for that. Then the second question is, so now that the land has closed, it is my understanding that, so I know in SB 450, I put in language, and I thought it was understood, at least by legislative intent, that the city of North Las Vegas couldn't do anything that would necessarily impede the movement of the project, right? But I saw the schedule. They don't have planning until June. They have council approval in July. And then the way it was broken down to me was that these could be these delays that occur because these different entities have to review the plan, which could tack on potentially 30 days and then speed us through the summer. And then we don't have what we need. Has there been a conversation that, number one, the planning commission is going to approve and not throw roadblocks where it's like, well, this particular department didn't review this, they have notes, they have comments, and now we're 30 days, 45, 60 days, and then moving. And then the council approval is now in September. Like, what are the conversations we're having around that, right? Because we started this with, we're on deadlines, period. Everyone knows that. We know that the amended bill is going to, give some time, but it's still an ARPA deadline, right? So what is the conversation we're having with North Las Vegas around moving this forward?
Steve Acroft for the record. So previous, I think within the past probably 6 weeks, it's probably my best estimation, North Las Vegas, City of North Las Vegas has created the Housing Task Force, which involves planning, zoning, utilities, just basically the infrastructure to try to get this done as quick as possible. They have assured the division they will move as quick as possible. I believe, and I'm not sure when the next meeting of that task force is, but I will find out for you. if there is to be one. But there also is a public process that has to be followed. And I think maybe that's where your timelines are sort of coming in with a notice to residents. And I know there was a meeting previous to this about what was happening to alert neighbors in the area and so that was pretty much the first step in that process. So we're watching it. We have division staff that attends those meetings along with the developer. And we will continue to monitor that, and to the extent that we can expedite it, we certainly will.
Thank you for that response, because if it's a council approval in July, that it would go for council approval, I think it's July 2nd or July 6th, that's not expedited, right? So from planning to council, we're talking about, I mean, the developer can't start until council approves. So then we have council approval, and then we have a start date of potentially August, maybe. So is there a conversation, a direct conversation, you're having the planning commission, are you, North Las Vegas, going to expedite this process because you're saying you're a partner and you're committed to trying to assist?
I am going to ask you guys to answer this question, but there seems to be a large amount of some different things happening that are both part of the budget, but then also part of other areas. We really have to have some of the information a little bit clearer. If you could answer this question, and then possibly we need to move on with a little bit more of the budget, but there continues to be some questions with timelines, how quickly things are moving, if they're moving or not, especially after we just had, we're making a recommendation to try to get some more people out there to help, but then doesn't feel like it's fitting with the timelines that are also here on this. So there seems to be some confusion going on here. So if you could answer this question, and then we might need to start doing some other conversations offline too.
Christine Hess for the record. The city of North Las Vegas has very much been at the table and has been expediting, as Administrator Acroft noted, with the task force, which is not a typical process for every project. At this point, we would love the opportunity to provide a written update to the subcommittee if that's the objective. But at this point, everybody has been working all hands on deck, including the city of North Las Vegas, to close on this parcel. The city also hosted already the neighborhood meeting, or the developer hosted the neighborhood meeting per the city requirements. So everything is tracking in an expedited fashion. Regarding the July date, certainly we'll follow up and make sure to include that in a report. But at no point has the division felt, other than core NV, any barriers to this process, which was extremely frustrating. But at no point have we felt that there are barriers, and if we felt them, we would raise them immediately. So apologies, Chair and Senator, that our answer isn't as clear as you need, but I think that it may suit the committee to just bullet point that update for you.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Motion at this time? It's up to you if you wish to or not.
So, wait, hold on.
It'll be just a moment. We're going to be in a brief recess. We'll take a 1-minute recess if possible. Thank you.
No.
Okay, so let's come on back from the brief recess. And Ms. Ryan, why don't you reread the motion if possible?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The decision for the subcommittee is on page 42 of the closing packet and includes, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of ARPA coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds of $13.6 million in fiscal year 2026 and $435,000 in fiscal year 2027 based on the division's expenditure projections to continue funding the Windsor Park relocation and rehabilitation project in the 2025-27 biennium? And does the subcommittee wish to recommend the issuance of a letter of intent requiring the Housing Division to provide quarterly reports to the IFC concerning the progress of the Windsor Park relocation and rehabilitation project for the 2025-27 biennium, and fiscal staff requests authority to make technical adjustments as necessary?
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
I accept make the motion as stated by staff.
Thank you. Motion's made by Chair Neal, seconded by Assemblymember Watts. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted, and one abstain, sorry. I think we're going to move on to the next account. Ms. Ryan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The next budget account is the Supportive Housing Development Budget Account, which was previously heard by the subcommittee on March 12th and is a new budget account recommended in the executive budget, but was established during the 2023-24 interim as a non-executive budget account in alignment with Assembly Bill 310 of the 82nd legislative session. Assembly Bill 310 appropriated $32.2 million from the State General Fund to carry out the Supportive Housing Grant Program. There is one major closing issue in this budget account, which includes the implementation of the Supporting Housing Grant Program, for which the governor's recommended base budget would provide expenditure authority of $20.2 million in fiscal year 2026 and $11.5 million in fiscal year 2027 to support the implementation of the Supportive Housing Grant Program. To increase the supply of quality supportive housing, build the capacity of the supportive housing industry to reduce homelessness and inappropriate institutionalization, and evaluate the effectiveness of intervention in this state. To stand up the program during the 2023-24 interim, the agency completed various tasks, including adding 2 new positions and adopting regulations. There is a table at the top of page 44 of the closing packet that provides some additional information on the 6 program areas the agency has identified would be supported by the funding in this account. Additionally, there is a brief overview of each program area as outlined below the table, which includes purposes such as to enhance new and existing subsidized housing programs, increasing and expanding the supportive services skills, and support the project initiation and planning process to create new units. The agency identified 5 housing projects were selected for grant awards as a result of the first round of funding. The agency testified that the Supportive Housing Program is a specialized affordable housing program that provides services to assist people in maintaining stable housing through wraparound services. And the agency anticipates a second round of funding will be open for applications in spring 2025 and anticipates the full $32.2 million to be obligated and encumbered by fall of 2025. During the budget hearing, the agency testified that grant expenses are projected to be approximately $7.6 million in each year of the 2025-27 biennium, which is $12.6 million lower in fiscal year 2026 and $4 million lower in fiscal year 2027 when compared to the grant expenses that are included in the executive budget. There's a technical adjustment to align with projected grant program expenditures as outlined on page 45. And the decision for the subcommittee is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of expenditure authority of $7.6 million in each year of the 2025-27 biennium, inclusive of the noted technical adjustment to implement the Supportive Housing Grant Program as recommended by the governor?
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion as stated by staff.
Motion made by Chair Neal, seconded by Vice Chair Bacchus. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. There are 2 other closing items in this budget account. Other closing item number 1 is outlined in the table on page 46, and other closing item 2 includes technical adjustments related to continued funding for 2 existing positions and security services expenses. The decision for the subcommittee includes fiscal staff recommends other closing item 1 be closed as recommended by the governor, other closing item 2 be closed with the noted technical adjustments, and requests authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion as stated by staff.
Motion made by Chair Neal, seconded by Vice Chair Bacchus. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted. think we're going to move on to the next account. Ms. Ryan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The next budget account for the subcommittee's consideration this morning is the weatherization budget account, which was previously heard by the subcommittee on March 12th. The Weatherization Assistance Program assists low-income families by improving energy efficiency in their homes and thereby minimizing utility costs. There are no major closing issues in this budget account. There are 9 other closing items, 5 of which are outlined in the table on page 49 of the packet. Other closing items 6 through 9 include technical adjustments related to revenue projections, weatherization assistance expenses, and security services expenses. And the decision for the subcommittee is on page 50 of the closing packet. And fiscal staff recommends other closing items 1 through 5 be closed as recommended by the governor. Other closing items 6 through 8 be closed with the noted technical adjustments. Other closing item 9 be closed consistent with the subcommittee's action on decision unit E232 in the Business and Industry Administration budget account with the noted technical adjustment and request authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you. Are there any questions? I actually do. Is there anybody from the department that could answer a question? It has to do with the grants on this one. Because I believe when this hearing took place, it was before some other grants were put on kind of the weatherization grants. In particular, I believe it was around the security services. Oh, look who's back. Oh, you're not. Never mind. Okay. It has to do with whether or not we are sure that we will be getting these grants again from the federal government. The weatherization grants, if we know that they will be coming or not, based upon some of the other activities around some budget areas.
Thank you for that clarity, Chair Anderson. Steve Acroft for the record. On the weatherization program, yes, we have heard rumblings to that effect. They are rumblings. We do know that in particular, the LIHEAP grant, while it has not been disseminated or we haven't received it, we do know that an awful lot of staff was recently let go in DC. So it's still sort of a TBD, for lack of a better word, on that particular funding source.
And for the record, Christine Hess, I would add that that is a smaller source of funding for the program, certainly an important source of funding. And we are still currently actively drawing on our other funds for weatherization at this point.
Thank you for that clarification. I don't think it would make any difference in the decisions and stuff, but we do have to be aware of it. And I know that when we had this hearing, that had not been rumblings, and then following the hearing, there had been some statements made in the press and other areas about it. So thank you so much for that clarification. Are there any other questions? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion at this time.
Make a motion as stated by staff.
Motion's been made by Chair Neal, seconded by Vice Chair Bacchus. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted. Ms. Ryan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The next 5 budget accounts the subcommittee has not previously heard and for which fiscal staff is responsible for developing closing recommendations. The closing recommendations for these budget accounts are identified on the summary page in the closing packet, which will allow the subcommittee members to make closing recommendations for these 5 budget accounts in one motion. The first budget account for which fiscal staff is responsible for developing closing recommendations for is the Housing Inspection and Compliance budget account, which funds the compliance, enforcement, and frontline service personnel to effectively address low-income housing needs for Nevada residents. There are no major closing issues in this budget account. There are 12 other closing items, 6 of which are outlined on the table on page 53 of the closing packet. Other closing item number 7 includes a technical adjustment to fleet services expenses. Other closing items 8 and 9 include technical adjustments related to associated operating and equipment costs for new positions. Other closing item number 10 relates to Budget Amendment A254923845, which was submitted by the Governor's Office of Finance on April 3rd, 2025, which recommends reserve reductions of $21,626 in fiscal year 2026 and $43,253 in fiscal year 2027 to fund the addition of 8 new Fleet Service Division vehicles. Other closing item number 11 also relates to budget amendment A2549238845, which recommends reserve reductions of $12,665 in each year of the 2025-27 biennium to establish training travel expenditure authority, for which there is also a minor technical adjustment as outlined on page 54. Other closing item number 12 also relates to budget amendment A2549238845, which recommends reserve reductions of $446,000 in fiscal year 2026 and $25,000 in fiscal year 2027 to fund the replacement of the agency's existing GL Solutions legacy manufactured housing software. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, we can move on to the next budget, mine safety and training.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The next budget account is the Mine Safety and Training Budget Account, which includes the Mine Safety and Training section, which provides mine inspection, technical assistance, consultation, safety and health training to prevent mine accidents and occupational illness. There are no major closing issues in this budget account. There are 9 other closing items, 6 of which are outlined in the table on page 57 of the packet. Other closing item number 7 includes a technical adjustment related to replacement equipment. Other closing item number 8 includes technical adjustments related to agency-owned and fleet services vehicles expenses. Other closing item number 9 includes a technical adjustment related to security services expenses. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, we can move on to the next, which I believe is the account for affordable housing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The next budget account is the account for affordable housing budget, which provides grant money to local governments, public and private nonprofit organizations, and housing authorities for various purposes. There are no major closing issues in this budget account. There are 7 other closing items, 5 of which are outlined in the table on page 59 of the closing packet. Other closing item number 6 relates to expiring ARPA funds. Other closing item number 7 includes a technical adjustment related to security services expenses. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, we can move on to now special housing assistance.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The next budget account is the Special Housing Assistance Budget Account, which includes the Neighborhood Stabilization Program funding to support the stabilization of neighborhoods. There are no major closing issues, and 1 other closing item that provides an update on the projects funded in this budget account. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, and I do believe there's a question on this one. Chair Neal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I had one question to the Housing Division on NSP and NSP3 for the GovRec 2026, the balance forward provision. So this money's been around for a while, but what I'm trying to figure out is the generation of funds coming from the affordability period that might have been tied to certain grants from long time ago. So basically, if they refi or sell the house, they're paying back money, and that's the first part.
Steve Akeroth, Administrator of the Nevada Housing Division. I don't know about the specifics that you're talking about, other than to say, yes, this is effectively program income that is coming in from various projects that were originally funded with NSP dollars.
So how long do you anticipate, because each city had a different I'm calling it an affordability period, meaning they had a 15-year, or some had in perpetuity, that if a family had used the down payment assistance under NSP 1 or NSP 3, if they refi or sell the house, they're paying back. Like if they got $20,000 in down payment assistance, they're paying back that city. So how much more is this going to continue producing program income, or that's the major question, because this has been going on since 2007.
Yeah, Steve Akeroth, Administrator of the Nevada Housing Division. I wish I could answer that question affirmatively with a dollar amount, But it's sort of like this gift that keeps on giving, for lack of a better word. And quite honestly, as we look at it and as the money comes to the fore, we are looking at potentially other ways to basically end the program. And I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Christine.
Yes, Christine Hess for the record. So there'll be a process with HUD in order to eventually close out this program, but we aren't looking to lose those federal dollars. So our hope is to partner with GoEd and allow them to spend the dollars with CDBG purposes. That's been done around the country for closing out this program.
Okay. That's surprising. So you want to close this program out and do CBDG allocations to help GoEd do housing? Why wouldn't this be applied somewhere else, like the Windsor rehab?
Christine Hess for the record. These funds do trigger Davis-Bacon and make them a little difficult to deploy for construction and rehab purposes, as the Housing Division may wish. We are able to deploy these funds with some of our building partners, depending on which sources of funds. But again, for the committee, for the sake of time and to provide the best information, we can certainly put that forward to the committee with the list. These funds have been a challenge to deploy for the federal regulations that are associated with them. And again, this is something that other HFAs have done or other award recipients have done with these funds. Whether GoEd does housing or not, they would be eligible for CDBG purposes. So that allows GoEd to repurpose the dollars for eligible CDBG uses.
I guess, and just one final question, Chair, because NSP3 was actually one of the programs that I had worked on, and one of the partners was associated with the county, and it was all rehab. It was literally go into this house and rehab it, and then put it back out there on the market. But it was rehab that was one of the major areas. We can talk offline. It's just one of the ones that I know this program income, I just was surprised to see it because it's so old. But we can talk offline about it.
Well, I so appreciate you bringing this up, though, because I think there's other questions now that have been raised because of it. Assemblymember Torres Fawcett.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for answering those questions for my colleague. Now, I kind of want to continue to have a conversation, though, because you said that if it was spent one way, that it would trigger Davis-Bacon, and so we're intentionally spending it a different way in order to evade Davis-Bacon. Is that correct?
Christine Hess for the record. I would not say anybody's spending money to evade Davis-Bacon. It's simply being able to deploy the funds in a way that the subrecipients will come to the table to apply for those funds. So absolutely not to evade Davis-Bacon. They've simply not, this program is older. I'm not sure when it was originally put out, and to the point, I think, of the senator, these funds we did look at this last fall to hopefully use for the Windsor Park project, but they did not make sense at the time to the deputy of programs at that time, who would have been the expert. So that would have actually been the fall of 2023, after the SB 450 passed. So it was our hope that maybe we could deploy some of these funds for Windsor Park, but they didn't make sense. But what I would rather do, Assemblymember, is provide information about the eligible uses of the program, the difficulties in deploying those funds for the committee from our programs officers, if that's okay.
Yes, and just a quick follow-up if I can. So I just want to be clear. So if they're spent through this account, then they do have to, all of those expenses have to also comply with Davis-Bacon, but if they are given, subgranted out, then they're not required to.
Christine Hess for the record. So my impression is that again, when we initially looked at these funds for the new construction project that came our way, and if we needed to be able to have access to additional funds, that it did not make sense to have this small amount of money come in with other compliance requirements that at the time the current project did not have. Regarding eligible uses, I think it would be better if I provide a list of all the eligible uses to the committee of NSP and of their compliance requirements. Sitting here, it would be unfair for me as the CFO to tell you that there's these eligible uses and these are the compliance requirements because it's likely pages thick. But I would like to summarize that and provide it for you, Assembly member, if that's okay.
Yes, thank you. That would be okay. And if you could just make it clear whether or not they are required to comply with Davis-Bacon in those allocations of funds as well. I guess my concern is that, and we had this conversation earlier in session, but I feel like this is almost an attempt to evade paying labor what they deserve for the quality of work and evade those rules, ensuring that our construction workers are paid fairly. And so I want to make sure that this is a mechanism that we do that with.
Thank you so much. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, let's go on to the next account, the employee management relations. We'll be doing them all at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The final budget account for the subcommittee's consideration is the Employee Management Relations Board budget account. The Government Employee Management Relations Board fosters the collective bargaining process between governments and their labor and employee organizations. There are no major closing issues in this budget account. There are 7 other closing items in this budget, 6 of which are outlined in the table on page 65 of the closing packet. And other closing item number 7 includes a technical adjustment related to replacement equipment.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. I'll give you a chance to take a little bit of a breath because I have a feeling we might have a pretty lengthy recommendation that might be coming up. So whenever you are ready, we can actually do all the motions together unless there are any questions. Hearing none, let's do the whole group.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. As previously noted, fiscal staff is responsible for developing closing recommendations for the following budget accounts. To assist with the closing, fiscal staff has identified the budget accounts that are recommended to be closed as recommended by the governor, along with the identified technical adjustments that are recommended below. The decision before the subcommittee includes fiscal staff recommends that the following budget accounts be closed as recommended by the governor, with the technical adjustments noted, and requests authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary. Budget account 101-3845, the Housing Inspection and Compliance, including closing other closing item 6, consistent with the subcommittee's action on Decision Unit E-232, and the Business and Industry Administration Budget Account 4681, closing other closing items 7 through 9 with the noted technical adjustments, closing other closing item 10 as reflected in Budget Amendment A254923-845 with the noted technical adjustment, and closing other closing items 11 and 12 as reflected in Budget Amendment A254923845 with the noted technical adjustments. Budget account 210-4686, the Mine Safety and Training, including closing other closing items 7 and 8 with the noted technical adjustments, and closing other closing item 9 consistent with the subcommittee's action on Decision Unit E-232 in the Business and Industry Administration Budget Account 4681, and with the noted technical adjustment. Budget account 101-3838, the account for affordable housing, including closing other closing item 7 consistent with the subcommittee's action on Decision Unit E-232 in the Business and Industry Administration Budget Account, and with the noted technical adjustment. Budget account 101-3839, special housing assistance, and budget account 101-1374, the Employee Management Relations Board, including closing other closing item 6 consistent with the subcommittee's action on Decision Unit E-232 in the Business and Industry Administration Budget Account, and closing other closing item 7 with the noted technical adjustment.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, would entertain a motion at this time.
Make a motion as stated by staff.
Motion's made by Chair Neal, seconded by Vice Chair Bacchus. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted unanimously. I think that is the end of our budget closings for today. We only have one more thing, and that would be public comment. If you are here in Carson City or nobody seems to be in Vegas and you would like to make public comment, come on up to the table. You've got 2 minutes. Seeing nobody coming up to the table. AVH, is there anybody online for public comment?
Thank you, Chair. Public lines are open and working. However, there are no callers at this time.
Thank you so much. So that ends our meeting. Thank you. Have a wonderful deadline day.